I'll begin. I'm Charlie Pillsbury, and I'm based in New Haven, Connecticut.
That's where I was
A
born.
member of
Okay.
a member of a UCC church called Shalom United Church of Christ, and have been part of this Colombia partnership for about 10 years, since traveling to Colombia in 2008 and meeting Michael for the first time. So I've stepped up to kind of volunteer these partnership calls, and we're delighted to have you folks from the Pacific Northwest join us. Anyway, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll do Michael and Angel, and then Ed if he has figured out his audio.
Okay. You mean me? Okay. Yeah. I'm Cora Trujillo, and I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I'm a member of Prospect United Church of Christ, and I've just come on this committee this year. I was actually born in New Haven and grew up in Brantford, so I'm familiar with that area.
Okay. Michael, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Michael Joseph. I am your Global Ministries mission co-worker in Colombia. I've served in Colombia with Global Ministries since May 1st, 2007 is the date I have in my head. So I'm on my third term in Colombia. Ordained Baptist minister, member of First Congregational United Church of Christ in DC as well. And yeah, I do, peace and justice social ministry in Colombia with our partners, Justa Paz of the Mennonite Church and the Peace Commission of the Evangelical Council.
And I have been working in the continent for almost 30 years in different capacities. But now since the 1st of September 2014, I am serving here at Global Ministries. It's my pleasure to be here and to be at your service.
So you've been almost 4 years now, is that right?
Yes.
And during those 4 years, you've always, your portfolio has been the Caribbean area.
No, actually the whole continent. I was one of the secretaries of the Latin American Council of Churches, a fellowship of 184 churches around Latin America and the Caribbean. I was also a mission co-worker from Global Ministries, working with Clyde, with this Latin American Council of Churches, and also with the World Council of Churches, the Puerto Rico Council of Churches, so all around the continent.
Okay, go ahead, Michael. We talked briefly about your trip, but you can maybe tell us.
Sure. So So I mentioned to Charlie and others, I think, know that I am in Tennessee at the moment. I've just spent the last 10 days. I just got to Tennessee last night from South Dakota. I was up in the Black Hills in South Dakota, invited by the Satyagraha Institute, which is an institute that does training and work in nonviolent education based on Gandhian principles. It's founded by a few people, but one of the founding members is the Reverend Carl Klein, who's a UCC minister in Brookings, South Dakota, longtime minister there and peace activist. And so the Satyagraha Institute invited Café Paz to send someone to their institute this year. They do an institute every year in the Black Hills. They do one every year in Mexico. They've done institutes in the past in Ghana and I believe in Nigeria. Basically doing training in Gandhian nonviolence. So there were about 20 of us there. It was a great experience. Kind of a big chunk of it focused on learning about Gandhian nonviolence. The Dr. M.P. Matai, who is the director of Gandhian studies at the Gujarat University, was founded by Gandhi. Kind of led that section. He was amazing. We also had a whole section where we looked at and learned from Lakota elders about Lakota the experience, the struggle of the Lakota people in South Dakota for self-determination, and their own sort of understanding, their own worldview, and their understandings of nonviolent struggle, which was also fascinating. And then a woman by the name of T. Marie King, who's from Birmingham, Alabama, African-American leader there that works for racial justice, shared with us about sort of current efforts in racial reconciliation, racial justice work that she's involved in Alabama and around the country, with a particular focus on Kingian nonviolence. So it was a great time, and they're very interested in looking at ways to partner with Café Paz and with DPAS. And what we're doing in Colombia, and learning about what we're doing in Colombia, and just kind of continuing the conversation. So that's exciting. I, of course, will go back to Colombia and take that word back to the directors, the board of directors of Café Paz, and kind of keep the conversation going and see where it leads, where it goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if they've done a training in Mexico. Obviously, they're able to do a bilingual training. They have the capacity to do that same training in Bogota.
Yeah. I think they would be interested if Café Paz decides that it wants to do that. I think they would be interested in coming to Colombia and doing some training with us. So,
right. So, Cora, do you have any questions, or Angel?
No, not so far. It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Angel, perhaps you can give us an update on Global Ministries and on your work.
Yes. Well, in terms of our working into the Caribbean initiative, as you may remember from other meetings, the Caribbean initiative started a year and a half ago, highlighting the wonderful work of our partners in 7 countries in the Caribbean area. We included Jamaica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Colombia, and Venezuela. And I think that I mentioned the 7 of them, but mostly the Antilles, the Antillas or Antilles Islands, as well as Colombia and Venezuela. And as part of the initiative, we worked on this Vacation Bible School curriculum, where we highlighted the fruits of the Spirit, using the testimonies of children around the Caribbean, and we used the experience of Colombian children as they share the fruits of the Spirit, as you can find them in the Bible, with congregations in the U.S. and in Canada. So it was a very successful campaign. We had good evaluations, very positive evaluations from congregations all throughout the United States and Canada. And now, as we are approaching into this second semester of the year and the last part of the Caribbean initiative, we are working on the next webinar. The next webinar will be held on September the 21st at 11 a.m. Our resource person will be our brother Martin Nates, the new director of Justa Paz, who will be sharing with us the actual situation of Colombia regarding the peace process, but highlighting the situation of the killings and the suffering of the people that are working for peace with justice in Colombia. What is the price that social and religious leaders are paying at this moment because of the defense of justice and peace. The situation, the crisis that has come into the political arena in Colombia after the elections and even before the elections, because Justa Paz and the Peace and Justice Commission from the Evangelical Council of Colombia have been documenting through the Prophetic Call publication about the persecution and the suffering of the people, of communities regarding the civil war in Colombia, something that hasn't passed or has not been overcome after the peace accords. Even though the peace accords have had a very positive effect on displacement of people and some other indicators, there are still threats to the life of social religious leaders. And the best example is the very much recent threat against organizations by the Águilas Negras or Black Eagles, who has threatened a whole bunch of organizations, including Justa Paz. So Justa Paz now is in some sort of a blacklist or a sinister list, because I don't want to use a racist term to describe this, but a very dangerous situation. So it's important for us to continue solidarity with our friends and brothers and sisters in Colombia. Global Ministries have signed several letters to defend the lives and the security of social and religious leaders that are working for the peace in Colombia. But returning to the webinar will be held on September 21st at 11 a.m. Martin Nates will be the resource person who will be sharing with us all of the information that I have described. Michael, as always, will be graciously translating the Martin's conference. Martin will be speaking in Spanish, and then Michael will be translating into English. But something very interesting that I want to share with all of you is that on my dialogue with Martin is said to me that around the date of the webinar, there is a very interesting radio and internet campaign. I don't know if it's like 12 to 15 hours of radio and internet campaign in defending the lives of the people in the communities, highlighting the situations that are happening in Colombia, but also seeking for the solidarity at a national level, but also at an international level. So I don't have all of the information because that came kind of today in the morning as I was in dialogue with Martin. But Martin Nates is the new executive director of Justa Paz. Sorry that I didn't tell that before. And Martin explained to me that campaign, but I will need, more details. So as soon as I have more details, I will be sharing the details of that campaign with you. Maybe Michael can help us too in terms of how can we join. Maybe through some recordings, recording some messages that could be transmitted in radio and internet, or maybe to make some events, activities at the same time in the US, and we can maybe report them through video or through audio. But I think that is a very interesting opportunity for us to continue showing our solidarity and to accompany our friends, brothers and sisters in Colombia. So September 21st, webinar, Peace, Justice and Reconciliation in Colombia, the price of defending peace, justice and reconciliation in Colombia, with Martin Nates, Executive Director of Justa Paz, with our colleague Michael Joseph with the translation, and to be aware about regarding this campaign that Justa Paz and some other organizations are promoting through or around the date of the webinar. I think that is all that I can say up to this moment. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share with me. Thank you.
Can I ask you, Michael, first of all, how do you spell Martin's last name?
Nates.
You're on mute.
I think that is Nates.
Nates. N-A-T-E-S.
Nates, yeah.
Nates.
Uh-huh.
And what can you tell us about her?
Him. Martin, like Martin.
Like Martin, yeah.
Or Martin without the E.
Right. Martin is the Spanish pronunciation of Martin, yeah.
Okay.
So Martin or Martin Nates he was hired about a month ago, just over a month ago. He started right when Justa Paz got the death threat. So unfortunately that is kind of trial by fire. His first days as director of Justa Paz. Though he has worked at Justa Paz for the last several years, he's been their coordinator of their community-based peace-building project. So he's been part of the programmatic staff of Justa Paz for several years. He's a Mennonite. He's pastored some at a Mennonite church, a local church there in Bogota. So that's a little bit about Martin. And I should mention also Denny, who was the previous director and was director at Justa Paz for 22 years. Has accepted a position, a part-time position, as the coordinator of advocacy for the PAS, the Interchurch Dialogue for People. So we still have her close by and part of one of the organizations that we work with.
Can you hear me now?
Can.
Yay.
Yes.
All right. I finally got to this.
Okay, excellent. Are there other questions? I guess one other question I have is just what the status is of those death threats. I know that.
So maybe just a quick update on that. It came out just over a month ago. I believe it was Saturday the 14th of July when we heard about it or saw it. And it was basically a kind of like a text message that went out through social media. A number of organizations were listed, so a number of organizations and individuals were listed in this kind of general threat. To date, we don't know of, we haven't heard of any person being targeted. Nobody, as far as we know, nobody's been killed that was mentioned in the list, and we're unaware of any sort of major attacks or anything like that that's happened. So we're grateful that apparently, as of right now, nothing has come of it, so to speak, or at least in terms of anybody's life being at risk. The Justa Paz, along with many of the organizations that were threatened, have of course spent a considerable amount of time responding to it, and that's an impact. When you're threatened, it can take up a lot of your focus, a lot of your time. Justa Paz and a number of the organizations have met a number of times to figure out how to respond. Have collectively, lodged a complaint with the police, have denounced it with the Prosecutor General's office, have met with the Human Rights Office of the Ministry of the Interior, kind of going through the whole official process to request that the Colombian government respond to the threat to protect organizations and communities that are affiliated with us. Justa Paz, of course, also put a large focus on the communities in the countryside that we work with. So one of our primary concerns was to make sure that those who are more at risk, perhaps than even those of us that directly work for Justa Paz, were being protected, and we were responding to that for them. That's kind of where things are at. Most of us don't expect the Colombian government or the prosecutor's office to really do a whole lot unless somebody were to be attacked or to be killed, which we certainly hope and pray won't be the case. And we're certainly taking measures to be extra careful, extra vigilant at this time as well. You're muted there, Charlie.
I was inviting Ed, who's now has voice, if he had questions for Mike or Angel. And Cora, you too, if you have questions for Angel about his presentation.
Well, I would
think what I'm going to
okay.
I think what I'm going to have to do is just go back and listen to, because I was so busy trying to figure out the technical thing on this, I wasn't able to plug in that carefully with what Angel was saying. One of the questions I might have from here, though, is how can we as local churches here somehow or another help make a difference? I hear the story, and I guess the answer to that would be just to tell your story and get some support from local congregations in that way.
Yeah, that certainly is part of it. Justa Paz, I failed to mention Justa Paz put out a statement, and along with that, sort of a sign-on letter. I sent it to this group's list when it came out. So that was the main, very specific thing that Justa Paz was asking for, was for individuals and organizations to sign on to that. I'll go ahead and do a little shout out to Rebecca and to Mike Nuroth, who, if they watch the video, we are grateful for the help that they provided in circulating that, of course, in movies as well. And I know we gathered I believe it's over 200 signatures. I was hoping Mike would give us, or Rebecca would give us, but several hundred signatures at least were gathered there, and Justa Paz is now using that letter and those signatures, that support that we received internationally in their ongoing kind of response to this with authorities in Colombia, and that's very helpful. So yeah, I think at this point, just kind of getting the word out there and being vigilant, being ready to respond if something else were to happen. And then Angel can speak to it again a little bit more, but this possibility to the radio program in September that Justa Paz will be a part of. Maybe another way that we can send messages of solidarity and encouragement, to Justa Paz and to folks in Colombia who are feeling threatened at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Cora,
Definitely, I need to have more information. As I told some months ago, Martin just shared with me that information for the first time this morning. I asked him some questions regarding the specifics of that campaign. So as far as I have more information, I will be sharing that with you. But my suggestion would be, to organize different activities simultaneously to the Colombian campaign, and also to be ready to share messages, audio messages, or internet messages to our friends in Colombia. But as far as I get more information, I will get back to you.
Okay.
Cora, you had a question?
Yeah, I feel like I need to educate myself, and I don't want to take up time in this meeting, but just the difference between Justa Paz and Cafe Paz and the Caribbean Initiative. So besides me just Googling these terms, is there a place I can go just read more about these organizations or initiatives so I know more of what you're talking about?
Okay, yeah. Justa Paz is one of our two partners in Colombia. One of our two global ministries partners in Colombia. Cafe Paz is a specific project where Michael is working right now. It's kind of an initiative worked by Michael regarding documentation, regarding advocacy of victims and the work of Peace with Justice. But it's a project, and it's a project that is sponsored by Justa Paz, because Michael is assigned to work with Justa Paz. So as part of his work in Justa Paz, he's in charge of that initiative, this project called Cafe Paz. The Caribbean initiative is something that goes beyond the work in Colombia. It's the work of in 7 countries in the Caribbean, Colombia included, and it's a campaign developed by global ministries to highlight the work of our partners in these 7 countries in the Caribbean, as well as highlighting the work on things like human trafficking, peace with justice, sustainable development, just economic systems in the light of climate change, and some other. So these are these 3 different elements. Cafe Paz, a project where Michael is working. Justa Paz, our global ministries partner in Colombia, as also the Peace and Justice Commission of the Evangelical Council of Colombia is our other partner. And the Caribbean Initiative is a campaign developed by global ministries, specifically by my office, working in 7 countries in the Caribbean.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And I will send and one of the minutes a few months ago, earlier this year, I think I tried to type up a description of Cafe Paz, because I think it's, so I will like that based on your question, because I'm sure other people have the same question that you have.
Michael also has written something in the chat room that is very useful to understand in a written way, the difference between these 3 things.
Okay.
Yep. Hope that's helpful.
And I'm struck that Friday. I mean, I think the other thing that in response to Ed and Cora's questions is that the opportunity to participate in that webinar on Friday, September 21st, which I think will be even so it's early. It's 11 a.m. Eastern time, so it'll be 8 a.m. your time. But that what's also striking to me is that's also, I think, the day that the UN designates as International Day of Peace.
That's the purpose, to do it within the UN campaign of the International Peace Day. That is the International Peace Day.
Yeah, that's also why Justa Paz is joining this. I think I don't know if it's 24-hour or 12-hour radio marathon.
I thought that's something that probably is not coincidental that both the webinar and the radio campaign in Colombia are happening on the same day. Maybe
That's right.
That's on purpose. Yeah, that's on purpose.
Right. And I just want to, as you said, have more information about that webinar and links to it.
Yeah.
Please circulate it, and I'll recirculate it. I do know that I could probably join the first 30 minutes, but then I have another commitment at the law school. I'm hosting a talk at at noon our time, so I'll miss the end of the webinar. But I think it also has a great opportunity to, particularly to meet the new director of Justapas, who's they've been a real pillar of in this partnership over the last decade. And I think that's also where Michael, his physical office was there. I'm not sure now, but you're still there.
Yep.
Okay. I know there was some talk about, locating this project at the Baptist Seminary in Cali.
Yeah, the Baptist Seminary in Cali is kind of seen as the main anchor organization, if you will, of the Peace Study Center, and where its academic seat is, if you will. But yeah, my physical office is at Justapas.
Okay. That's good to know. So, anything else that on your mind, Cora? Usually questions that you have are questions that are helpful for all of us.
Can't think of anything.
Okay. And I know that Ed is going to have to go back and digest what he's recorded.
Yeah, I'm still very much in the learning phase of what's happening here, so
Right.
we'll get to it. Right.
But of course, I'll say that one of my dreams is that I'm just very impressed with how organized the Pacific Northwest is, and organized enough that you have a joint UCC Disciples partnership that really models the partnership that the two churches have nationally and internationally with global ministries. And in fact, Angel represents the disciples of Christ. And we've always had in our partnership more UCC members than disciples members, but we welcome those members. So because it's an important collaboration. And I guess my dream would be that the best way to really find out what you can do is to go there, is to organize the delegation and and go to Justapas and perhaps go to one of the communities where they're working, or one of the communities where Michael's working, and also now that this organization that was described in the chat and mentioned DPAS, the Interchurch Dialogue for Peace, where Jenny Nemi, the former director for the last 20 years of Justapas, is now, sounds like she's taking a position as a part-time coordinator of advocacy for DPAS. And I will say that my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, that one of the significant impacts of DPAS is that in the peace accords, they created these demobilization zones, and they wanted these zones to be monitored by neutrals. And of course, the Catholic Church and the Jesuits in particular are always eager to step up and do that. But as I understand it, the FARC, interestingly enough, insisted that there also be Protestant churches involved in the monitoring. That's an initiative that actually came from the guerrillas, not from the government.
Yeah, that's generally true. And DPAS was actually mentioned in the peace accords, in the final text of the peace accords. It mentions DPAS, particularly in the not exactly monitoring, but in helping facilitate sort of reconciliation processes where one of the sides kind of admits to crimes that they may have committed or violations that they committed, and kind of want to apologize to a specific community, or at least recognize the damage that they did to a community. So the Peace Accords call on both the Bishops' Conference, so the Catholic Church, and DPAS to help facilitate those encounters and those processes. But yeah, beyond that, DPAS is part of a broader coalition of civil society organizations that's doing monitoring, not just in the FARC camps, but of the Peace Accord implementation more broadly.
Right.
I have a question. Do we know specifically who's making the death threats to
Yeah, so
organizations?
the death threat that Gustavo was mentioned in came from a thing called, or a group called the Águilas Negras, which is directly translates as Black Eagles. So we know that specifically. And then there is what we don't know so specifically exactly who or what the Black Eagles are. The term Black Eagles and that a logo associated with the Black Eagles and sort of that identity has been used for many years now in Colombia, at least for 8 to 10 years, if not more. In Colombia, it's used to threaten people by and large. But there's a lot of conversation around who exactly it is. Nobody has really ever seen a group of people wearing uniforms that say Black Eagles. Nobody's been arrested doing an activity as a Black Eagle. A lot of speculation says that it may in fact be the military, Colombian military, sort of factions within the Colombian military. When they want to threaten a group or threaten somebody, then they'll use the Black Eagles logo. Other people say it could be, could be others. It could be a lot of different people that kind of use that logo and use that moniker, that name, to threaten folks. So it's kind of complicated to know even exactly who it is or and how to interpret those types of threats. Sometimes nothing comes of them, and sometimes people that are threatened that way are in fact killed. So it's something you take seriously. But it's not like you know exactly where to go and who to talk to if, to try to work things out.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's helpful, Michael, because I think I had always assumed that it was one of the paramilitary groups that organized and used that moniker. But I can see it's not that simple.
Right.
No one's.
Well, in as much as even if you consider that it's the military, in as much as it is the military doing things in sort of an illegal way and a not above board kind of way, then it is a form of paramilitarism.
Yeah.
So considering themselves broadly a paramilitary group or a strategy of paramilitarism would be correct in that sense.
Right. Well, it does remind me of our history in the South here, where then members of the Ku Klux Klan, many of them were, police officers who were active police officers in the South.
Right.
By day and by night, they put on their white sheets and cover up their uniforms, and so
yeah, there are some real similarities there. Exactly.
Kind of history. I guess my question is: does it make sense to have another partnership call before the webinar coming up on the 17th, or do it afterwards? It's about a month away. So that's really for you, Angel, and you, Mike, but also maybe Ed and Cora, if you have some thoughts, it would be helpful to continue these.
Well, I, as I mentioned a moment ago, I'm still very much in the learning, gathering of information phase. We will be having our next meeting of the Global Ministries Committee in our conference and region in October. I think that date was just settled on today, October 13th in Yakima. So I would like to be able to collect this information that we're putting together right now to present to the committee and let the committee decide where we think we might be wanting to go with this. It's from what I am sensing, there's a fairly significant amount of support for the idea of moving forward with the relationship with Colombia, but I think people really want more information. So that September 21st webinar is another place where we can go to begin gathering some more of that information. I don't know, me personally, I don't know that it would work all that well or be all that helpful for us to have another one of these kinds of calls before the September 21st meeting.
I agree.
Okay. So maybe we should try to schedule our next call after your October 13th meeting to see where you are.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So I always turn to Michael and Angel because they're such critical to these partnership calls. In fact, they're our, you might say, our staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The week of the 15th to the 19th would probably be best for me, right through there, if that works for Anjo.
It's October.
Yeah, of October.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I will be traveling most of October. My suggestion would be on the 4th of October, Thursday.
That's before the 13th.
The 4th of October.
Yeah, we were looking for a call after October 13th when the Northwest Global Ministries team meets.
Well, if that is the case, the thing is that I won't be available for the rest of October. I am into the Indiana region, Texas, Cuba. Yeah, I will be traveling most of that month.
When will you be back, Angel?
The 1st of November.
So maybe we should look at the
First week of November.
week of November 5th.
If that is the case,
Recognizing that election day is on Tuesday, November 6th that week.
Right.
Okay. How about November the 7th?
Sure.
Works for me.
November the 7th?
And what time works for you?
It's 2 p.m. Right? Good for everybody?
Works
So
for
that
me.
means 11 for us.
11 for you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
It's on my calendar.
Okay.
Okay. 7th of November at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Excellent. And,
I will be circulating further information on the campaign organized by Gustav and the Mennonite churches and social organizations, so we can join on that campaign, and also some more information on the webinar.
right, okay, so we'll wait to hear from you about the webinar and about that radio campaign on International Peace Day, same day as the webinar.
Yeah, excellent.
Great.
And if you have information about the latter,
I'll send it along as well.
let
Yep.
us know.
Will do.
Okay, well, thank you, Cora, and thank you, Ed, for your valiant efforts to connect with us and to continue recording. I think
Figure it out.
your recording is invaluable because it saves us from taking minutes, and the minutes are never, complete. It's hard to capture everything. So, and you do a wonderful job editing them down. So, I appreciate, that the ministry and how you're supporting this partnership. It means a lot. Anyway, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Charlie, for coordinating us all.
Okay. It's my ministry.
That's right. We're grateful.
That's right. And I'm sorry that Colombia didn't do better in the World Cup.
Oh, yeah, well, that's over. That's over.
And I thought that maybe they win the Tour de France, but no, not that either. But anyway,
we did really well in the Caribbean games.
that's right. Well, the U.S. needed to say wasn't even in the World Cup, and I don't think there was a U.S. rider anywhere near the top 10. So
Yeah, there we go.
we have nothing to brag about here in the United States.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, folks.
Bye.
See you, buddy.
All right. Give my best to your family.
Take care.
Ciao.